Dina here and welcome back to my channel. This video is also having to do with acid reflux and Gerd, and I'm going to tell you guys my top 10 foods to avoid with acid reflux and then another bonus 5 other things to avoid. Let's get it poppin'. NSAIDs are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and they consist of most painkillers like Advil, ibuprofen, etc. Those are all fine and dandy, but if you have an ulcer or any acid problem like acid reflux or Gerd, it's really something you're going to want to stay away from because they're very hard on the stomach lining. And obviously this is my personal opinion, I'm not a doctor, I think we have to say this. But yeah, from personal experience, and it's on pretty much any other site you look at for things to stay away from with acid reflux or Gerd or ulcers, you're gonna find NSAIDs. It's well known that they are very difficult on the stomach, even the whole digestive tract, it's very difficult on. And a lot of doctors will tell you if you get ulcers, they're gonna tell you to stay away from Advil and NSAIDs. Spicy foods. And when I'm saying spicy foods, I'm talking about like hot sauces, any naturally spicy foods like certain peppers, definitely jalapeno peppers, but also spices. Spices aren't necessarily hot, but they can be strong. Like for example, curry powder or curry seasoning, that just has a lot of natural spices in it, and that really irritates my stomach. So you might want to stay away from spicy foods as well as literal spices. So with acid reflux and Gerd, a good rule of thumb to kind of stick to is the blander the better. So the blander your food is, the less seasoning it has on it, which doesn't sound that great, but you will adjust, the easier it will be on your stomach. So just keep that in mind. If you're like, oh, why did that bother me? It wasn't even spicy. Well, it might have had a ton of seasonings on it and your stomach is just like, whoa, this is a lot going on, I'm not ready for it yet. But don't worry, you'll get there, okay? Another thing to avoid with acid reflux and Gerd is fried foods. And for a lot of people, that is a little discouraging because in our super fast-paced society, fast foods are eaten a lot. But stomach issues such as acid reflux and Gerd are also going up by a lot. Fried foods include everything from, you know, pizza to donuts to fries to even fatty burgers and everything of that sort. Even if you're cooking at home, don't use a lot of oil if possible. You have the option of roasting, baking, boiling, broiling, steaming, many options without frying. So try to start learning how to use those techniques. And if you do have to fry, try not to use a lot of oil and try not to use high heat. Garlic and onions also are a big one to stay away from. They're really strong, especially fresh. When you have a stomach that is in a bad state or a bad condition, you don't want something really strong in there. If they're really well cooked, I personally don't notice much pain or much of a bad reaction with them. But if they're raw, oh, I will get a headache, I will get nauseous, I'll get the burning. So they're just a bad option. So I highly recommend that if you're gonna eat onions and garlic, they should be really well cooked. Everyone's different, so their list of items which they need to stay away from is also going to be different. But the good thing is with having stomach issues is that it doesn't take you long to figure out whether something affected you negatively or not. As soon as it goes into the esophagus and into the stomach, you're gonna know whether that was not something you should have eaten or whether it's fine. So the burning will usually start pretty quickly and all those kind of things, right? Within an hour at least. Sometimes it's even less than that. Sometimes for me it can be within 15 minutes. Dairy is one of the things that does it for me. If I eat cheese, I feel disgusting. I feel the burning and I feel all those reactions that I feel to raw onions and garlic and that I feel to spicy foods. I feel all of that with dairy. So I personally stay away from cheese, I stay away from yogurt, I stay away from milk. Dairy butter. I'm pretty much vegan except for that I do eat like eggs and mayo, which has eggs. Otherwise, I am pretty vegan because of my stomach issue and because it affects me so badly. If you are getting really bad acid reflux and GERD, you might want to try eliminating dairy and see if that helps you, because it really has for me. Caffeine as in coffee, caffeine as in chocolate is something you want to stay away from because it relaxes the lower esophageal sphincter, and relaxing the lower esophageal sphincter allows the food to come up and gives us reflux. If you're one of those coffee drinkers and you do have these stomach problems, try to stay away from it. Try to switch to decaf or do whatever you can to reduce your intake of caffeine. I sometimes eat a very small piece of chocolate after my meals and I'm fine. However, if my stomach's in a worse state, then I can't do that and I just have to sub for a couple cherries or some natural sweet. Alcohol, obviously more than fizzy drinks, is something to stay away from because it is kind of like a double whammy bad combination. Not only does it relax the lower esophageal sphincter and allow food to come back up and the alcohol to come back up, but it also increases the amount of acid production that goes on in your stomach. So you're producing more acid and you're allowing it to come back up into your esophagus and cause reflux. So it's really, really, really bad if you have acid reflux or GERD to drink alcohol, any amount. Fizzy drinks like sodas are also something to stay away from because they quite often do contain caffeine as well. And they are quite acidic actually. They usually have a high pH and are quite acidic. So that combination, those are things we want to stay away from. So fizzy drinks are also a good thing to avoid. Lemons, grapefruits, oranges, all of those you want to watch out for. The worst, personally, that I've noticed is tomato sauce. So I can get away with a couple slices of tomatoes on toast, fresh tomatoes, and I won't really see anything like a bad reaction or anything. But if I have pasta with tomato sauce, or if I have pizza with tomato sauce, or if I have anything with the actual tomato sauce, my stomach hates it. I actually did that last night. I made pasta for a bunch of other people, a bunch of friends, and so I had just a couple bites of it. It wasn't a lot, but I definitely felt it within half an hour. But then thankfully I drank the product that I referred to in my other video, and that really helped. But still, tomato sauce is a no-go, so try to avoid that. If you're Italian, like I am, that's really difficult. I actually worked in an Italian restaurant last summer when this whole issue came back, and I was eating a lot of pasta with sauces on it, and when my GERD came back, it was with fury. It was awful. So that's one thing I'm really careful about is tomato sauce. Juice personally hurts my stomach when I drink it, and I'm pretty sure that is because of the high sugar content. Even natural 100% fruit juice has really high natural sugar, and that really bothers my stomach. Sugar is also a bad one. If you're eating a lot of sugar and having these issues, try really cutting down your sugar intake and you'll notice benefits. I don't really eat sugar except for a small sweet thing after my meals, whether that sometimes it's fruit and sometimes it's a small piece of chocolate. I try to vary it up so it's not too much like actually refined sugar, but when I got my stomach issues really bad, I cut out sugar completely and that did help a lot. So sugar is another one. Just add that in there. The last thing out of my top 10 foods to stay away from is mint. Mint gum, mint tea, mint anything. Mint also relaxes your lower esophageal sphincter and increases your risk for reflux. All right, so that wraps up my top 10 foods to stay away from. And now let's move into our bonus 5. Overeating. Overeating just causes your stomach to be overworked, stressed. You're gonna get more pressure on it and you're gonna get more food pushing back up into the esophagus. Overeating, oh, I feel probably the worst. Probably the worst when I eat cheese and when I overeat. Those are probably the two worst, and when I eat tomato sauce. Those are probably the three things that make me feel the worst. Stress also increases acid production. So if you are stressed, try to find ways to de-stress, and I'll be making some videos about that because this channel is about mind and body health tips. So I'll make some videos on that, but find ways to reduce stress. One of the best ways is actually by writing. So whether you journal at the end of the day, or whether you just jot your feelings down when you're stressed, or write about, I don't know, whatever you feel like writing about, but just writing actually like categorizes your thoughts and helps you to be able to think clearer. So just write out your thoughts. Maybe it's a jumbled mess, but in your head it's actually categorizing things and making them a little clearer, and then it'll be easier for you to be like, okay, this is exactly what I need to do to get where I want to get, or whatever the scenario might be. So you could write, or you could paint, or you could go outside. Physical activity is wonderful for reducing stress, and do whatever you gotta do, but try to reduce your level of stress, and that will also help your acid reflux and GERD. So, 2 birds with 1 stone. A lot of people seem to love wearing tight clothes. I personally love my boyfriend jeans, but a lot of people love tight clothes. However, if you have acid reflux and GERD, what that does is it pushes on your stomach, anything tight, right? Pushing on your stomach, and it's pushing that food back upward, and we want it to be able to flow downward and out of our esophagus, out of our stomach really quickly and with ease. So when my stomach was very bad, I definitely stopped wearing tight clothes for probably at least a month, maybe more. That was the first time I had my first bout of GERD. I've had 2. So the first one, I definitely stopped wearing tight clothes for a long time. But if you're having a bad bout of GERD and a lot of acid reflux, then if you're a lady, take off your bra, get into some comfy sweatpants and a hoodie, just loose clothes, and lounge. If you work an office job, there are also loose options. You just have to look for them, and that's really gonna help. And if you're a guy, obviously you probably don't need to take off your bra, but you can still lounge in something really comfortable. And so just try to stay away from tight clothes just while you're dealing with this acid reflux. So especially right after you eat, you don't want to lay down, because your stomach is like this, and when you lay down it's like this, and then that means your food can go right up your esophagus back into refluxing all the way to your mouth. So it's really important to try to stay upright as much as possible and let the food stay down where it's supposed to be. And even laying down a lot in the day is not the best when you have acid reflux. It's the best to stay upright as much as possible. And I even have a wedge pillow, and that's what I sleep with at night. The only disadvantage is that I slide down it a lot, so I would love to find a way that would keep me on it. But laying down often is not good, so try to stay upright as much as possible and save the laying down for sleeping. And when you do lay down, it should be at least 3 hours after you eat. And lastly, the last thing to avoid with acid reflux and GERD is drinking with your meals. Whether it's a glass of wine, it's very bad because we already talked about what alcohol does. Whether it's juice, whether it's water, whatever it is, try to avoid drinking with your meal, because that dilutes the stomach acid, and it seems like that's really good and that's what we might want, but it's actually not, because we need that strong stomach acid to break down our food, and then it can pass from our stomach to the next phase of digestion. If we have water in there to dilute that stomach acid, it's not going to digest properly, and our stomach is not going to be able to empty like it should, and we're going to get a lot of reflux. So drinking with your meals is a bad story. Wait at least half an hour, but you should wait about 40 minutes to an hour, and the same goes from right before your meal, and that is going to give you lovely results. So thank you so much for tuning in to my YouTube video. I hope you like, comment, and subscribe if you want more content. And I really hope this stuff helps you guys. Please feel free to DM me on Instagram, or you can message me on Facebook. Both of those links are on my YouTube banner. So thank you for tuning in, and hopefully I will make another video a lot sooner than I did for this one. Okay, thanks guys.